Hey everyone, you ready to dig into some ancient history? We're diving deep into Romulus and Remus this time.
A classic.
Yeah, those abandoned twins raised by a she-wolf, right?
Yeah.
Destined to found Rome. You all sent in some seriously fascinating sources for this one. And let me tell you, this goes way beyond that basic story we all think we know.
It's a story that just keeps giving, isn't it? Every time you think you know it all.
Oh, tell me about it. I went down a few rabbit holes getting ready for this one. Okay, so Romulus and Remus twin brothers abandoned. Standard stuff. But their family tree is way more complicated than you think.
That's an understatement. The traditional story says their father is Mars, the god of war, which of course kind of sets the tone right.
Oh, yeah, like instant destiny. Born from war, destined for greatness, all that jazz.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it gets wilder because some versions of the story, they say Hercules was the dad.
Hold on. The Hercules. Like Greek myth Hercules.
One and the same. And that's actually a huge detail because it tells us the Romans were purposely weaving Greek mythology into their own origin story. So they're giving themselves some Greek street cred right from the start.
Exactly. It shows how much Greek culture influenced even how Romans saw their own beginnings. And speaking of influence, we got to talk about Amulius, the twins' great uncle. This guy took the throne from his own brother, Numitor. That's never a good sign.
Family drama, ancient history style.
Right, and to make sure no one could challenge him, he forced Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia, to become a Vestal virgin.
Okay, time for a quick history snack for anyone who forgets their Roman religious figures. Vestal virgins, they were like priestesses, right? Sworn to chastity, their whole thing was purity, essential for Rome's safety and all that.
Exactly. So Amulius making Rhea Silvia do that, it wasn't just a power move. It was guaranteeing she wouldn't have kids who could take the throne back.
Smart, but also, we know this doesn't go according to his plan, because, hello, twins.
Right. Despite everything, Rhea Silvia gives birth to Romulus and Remus. And obviously everyone assumes a god's involved, whether it's Mars or Hercules, depends on which version you're reading.
So we've got these maybe demigod babies, a usurper king who's probably freaking out.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Well, Amulius, obviously terrified by these infants, orders them drowned in the Tiber River.
Classic villain move. Never works out well, though, does it?
Never! And this is where we get to one of the most famous images ever, the she-wolf.
The she-wolf, nursing those babies. I mean, come on, it's like the symbol of Rome.
Oh, it's iconic, no doubt. Incredibly powerful image. But, like a lot of this story, there's way more to it than you think.
Well, you know I love a good what's really going on moment, so
Right.
What else is there about this wolf of ours?
Okay, so first we got to remember the Latin for she-wolf lupa. It had a double meaning back then. Could also mean a certain kind of woman, let's just say, not known for good behavior.
So maybe not a literal wolf, but a woman who took them in. Okay, getting interesting.
Right, and that's where Faustulus and Occulurentia come in.
Yeah.
Faustulus is the shepherd who finds the twins, pretty straightforward. But Occulurentia, his wife? Some sources say she was a, shall we say, lady of the night, but in others, she's this powerful figure, all about fertility and abundance.
Okay, so now it's getting blurry, literal wolf. Woman with a colorful past.
Yeah.
Or maybe some kind of fertility goddess. It's like the story saying, pick your interpretation.
Exactly. Romans loved that layered meaning in their myths. It's not about one right answer, it's about the symbolism. But anyway, no matter who rescued them, Romulus and Remus, they find out their true heritage eventually. And you can guess, they were not happy with dear old great-uncle's power grab.
Oh, I bet not. Family therapy, ancient Roman style. So, do they confront him, get some revenge, set things right?
Oh yeah, full-on epic revenge story. They put their grandfather, Numitor, back on the throne where he belonged. But, and here's where it gets good, they don't just stay in Alba Longa, they decide to found their own city.
Bold move. Why share when you can each be king?
Right. But, even twins raised by a maybe wolf, they don't always agree. Romulus, he wants the Palatine Hill. Remus, he's all about the Aventine Hill.
Classic sibling rivalry. So how'd they decide? Flip a coin, thumb wrestling,
They used augury, basically watching the birds, seeing what the gods were trying to tell them.
and, since this is the founding of Rome we're talking about, I'm guessing the bird watching did not go smoothly.
You could say that. So Remus, he sees 6 vultures first, which was a good omen back then. Pretty solid, you'd think. But then Romulus, oh, he ups the ante. Claims he saw 12 vultures a little later.
Whoa, 12. Talk about outdoing your brother. Did anyone, check if he was telling the truth, or was it just Romulus wins?
Right, that's the thing, we don't know. The story just doesn't say. But regardless, Romulus, he takes this as a sign from the gods, says his spot is the chosen one.
And Remus, being the reasonable twin, was just like, okay, your city, fine by me.
Oh no, not even a little. See, Remus, he does something. I don't know if it's frustration or just pushing his brother's buttons, but he jumps over the wall Romulus is building.
Ooh, bad idea. I could already tell this isn't going to end well.
Nope, this is where things go dark. Romulus, furious, kills Remus, says something like, anyone else want to jump over my walls?
Intense. Definitely got the message across. Don't mess with Rome or Romulus or, walls in general, I guess.
Right. It's brutal. Establishes the city on this really dark foundation and sets the tone for how Romulus is going to rule. Even the legendary figures, they've got a dark side.
So we got a city founded on fratricide. King's not afraid to get his hands dirty. What could go wrong, right?
Well, about that. Building a city's one thing, but populating it, that's a whole other problem, especially when you've, let's just say, made some enemies of your neighbors.
Oh, no. This is leading up to the rape of the Sabine women, isn't it? History's not going to let us off easy with this one. Yeah, okay. So the rape of the Sabine women. Even for the ancient world, that's a big red flag, isn't it?
It's rough, absolutely brutal, and we can't sugarcoat it. Basically, Romulus and his men, they realize, oops, not enough ladies in our new city. So what do? They decide to just take some from the Sabines.
Okay.
Yeah. They have this whole festival, invite the Sabines over, thinking they're being all friendly. And then, yeah, it's as bad as it sounds.
It's just wild that this is, like, part of how Rome gets going. You couldn't write this stuff.
And yet, here we are. It leads to war, obviously. But what's really interesting is how that war ends.
Please tell me it wasn't just more violence.
It wasn't, actually. It's the Sabine women themselves who stop it. Imagine that they were the victims, right? But they stand between these two sides, their Roman husbands on one side, their Sabine families on the other, and they just plead for peace.
Wow. That's incredible. So they went from being taken to literally shaping the future of Rome. That's power.
Total power move. It says a lot about how resilient they were.
Wow.
Even though everything's been taken from them, they find a way to take control. Adds a whole other layer to how we see this event. It's not just about conquest, it's about women, even in this totally male-dominated world, still finding a way to change their fate. And Rome's.
Okay, so we've got Rome, founded, not exactly smoothly.
Oh.
And we've got Romulus, tough guy, king, not afraid to kill. But what about Remus? He's always kind of stuck in my head. Is it too simple to say he's like the road not taken? Like maybe Rome's different if you'd won?
It's the question, isn't it? Even dead, Remus is Romulus's opposite. Some stories even say that Remus, when he picked the Aventine Hill, he was being strategic, he saw the need for defense, being more careful, totally different from Romulus always wanting more.
So you're saying maybe if Remus was calling the shots, Rome's whole vibe is different. Less conquering, more chilling.
It's something to think about. We can't know, obviously, but those two approaches, right there in the twin brothers, fascinating how that might have changed everything.
Okay. Let's switch gears a bit. This one really got me when I was reading through everything you sent, the idea that maybe Romulus and Remus weren't even real.
Right. Historians love to debate this stuff. This story, it's like the story for Romans, their whole identity's built on it. Hard to separate what's myth, what's real.
I mean, the she-wolf, that's got to be made up, right?
Well, even that, it might have some true thing behind it, depending who you ask. But you're right, the odds of it happening exactly like the story, slim to none. It's more likely that over time, they added stuff in. Local legends, maybe some Greek myth thrown in for good measure, and boom, perfect origin story.
So it's like a giant game of telephone, centuries of whispers and stories. So it feels true even if it's not.
Exactly. And myths. They tell us more about the people who believe them than about what actually happened. Romans loved this story, even with all the messed up parts. It says a lot about them,
Which I think brings us to the big so what. Why do we care about these old stories? They might not be like textbook history, but they give us a glimpse inside, how the Romans saw themselves, what made them tick. What about you? Anything in particular going to stick with you after this deep dive? That's something to think about. Thanks for coming along with us on this one, everyone. Until next time, keep digging deeper.